He was always the first one to open his mouth, the first to throw a punch, the first to laugh at his own ridiculous jokes. That was just who Tyler was. I could never imagine him ending up like this. The hushed voices, the tissue boxes tucked on every pew, the stiff handshakes that felt rehearsed. The whole thing had an artificial shine to it, like people were playing their parts instead of grieving. Jessica, my wife, squeezed my hands so hard my fingers went numb. Her grip was sharp enough to hurt. I kept my eyes forward. Looking at her right then felt impossible. Before we continue, please subscribe to stay updated on our latest stories. What she was giving me was not comfort. It felt more like control, a quiet reminder to stay in line. Up front, my parents sat straight back to my dressed like they were heading into some kind of corporate board meeting instead of their son's funeral. No swollen eyes, no trembling tissues, just crisp clothes and expressions that looked like they had been practiced in the mirror. My father gave the priest a firm nod as if they were finalizing a business deal. My mother touched her pearl necklace right in the middle of the prayer, the way she does when she is restless. When the casket began to sink into the ground, my throat tightened. Without even thinking about it, my fingers reached for my phone. Years of training myself to escape boredom or grief with a quick scroll. It buzzed once. A message. Tyler's number. I am not dead. Not me. My heart stopped cold. My eyes darted to the trees, the cars parked along the curb, the man holding the umbrella by the hearse. Nothing. Nobody staring. Just gray sky and the dry sound of soil falling on wood. Another buzz lit the screen. Cannot explain more. They are listening. Do not trust Jessica. Do not trust our parents. My legs went weak. A high ringing filled my ears. I shoved the phone back into my pocket, forced my face into something blank, and stared at the ground while the final prayer wound down. People drifted away slowly, mumbling polite words they did not mean. Jessica leaned in close and whispered that we should go. Her breath hit my neck and made me flinch. It was too cold, too deliberate. That night, I did not sleep. I lay there stiff while she curled against me, like nothing at all had happened, like my world had not been cracked open by a single message. I kept my eyes closed, my breathing even, pretending to sleep while every nerve in my body screamed. That was not my brother in that box. And whoever set up this funeral was lying next to me in my own bed. Before sunrise, I slipped out, did not say a word to Jessica. Just grabbed my keys, pulled on a hooded sweatshirt, and drove 3 towns over to Tyler's place. It was a tiny studio above a rundown tire shop with a flickering neon sign that had been broken since the pandemic. I had been there a dozen times. Tyler liked it because it was cheap, quiet, and nobody cared who came or went. But stepping inside now felt wrong. The air smelled like bleach. No dishes in the sink. No hooded sweatshirt thrown over the couch. The whiteboard where he scribbled song lyrics was wiped clean. His acoustic guitar was gone. So was his laptop. Even his ridiculous lava lamp had vanished. The only things left were a crusty jar of mayonnaise sitting in the refrigerator and a single beer can. Tyler despised mayonnaise. He used to gag at the sight of it. That told me either somebody else had stocked that fridge or somebody wanted me to think he had. I stood in the middle of the empty room trying to feel him there, but it was like he had never lived in that space at all. And then it hit me. This was not just cleaned, it was staged, sanitized, scrubbed of every trace of Tyler. Some old part of me woke up, the part from when we were kids hiding notes and toys from our mother when she was on one of her room check moods. We always had clever hiding spots. I walked straight to the old wooden dresser he had dragged from our parents' attic years back, pulled it out from the wall. There it was, a fake outlet cover just like the ones we used to use. I pried it off. Inside, taped deep into the drywall, was a small plastic bag. My hands shook harder now, more adrenaline than fear. Inside was a prepaid burner phone. It still had battery. When I powered it on, a passcode screen came up. I tried the first thing that popped into my head, our old Xbox cheat code from the game we spent an entire summer beating. Phantom 77. The screen unlocked. Only 3 contacts, one labeled J, another called Fox, the last one gray, no text messages, no call history, no photos, just a single video file. I sat down on the bare mattress, my thumb hovering over the file. Then I tapped it. The screen flickered and Tyler's face appeared. Thin, sweaty, voice trembling. He was outside somewhere. Trees rose behind him. Maybe a forest. Maybe up in the mountains. Wind hissed and cracked against the microphone. Tyler's voice came through rough and shaky. "If you are watching this," he said, "then either I made it out alive or I did not." My throat tightened like a knot. He flicked his eyes off to the side of the camera, like he was checking the trees for movement. "The funeral is a setup," he whispered. "Someone close to us arranged it. I am not safe, Ben. And if they think you are digging, you are not safe either." He leaned closer until the lens caught every line of his face. A long, fresh scratch ran down his left cheek. "Start with Jessica," he said. "She is not who you believe she is. And if you have the guts, ask Dad about Redwood Summit." He stopped, hesitated, as if weighing whether to keep going. Then, quieter. "Do not trust Mom. No matter what she says, she is deeper in this than you think." The screen shook like he stumbled or shifted his grip on the phone. "I found something," he went on. "Stuff I was never supposed to see. Documents, names, evidence that could bring the whole thing down. That is why I ran. That is why they want me erased." The video cut off without warning. No goodbye, just black. I sat there on that bare mattress, my heart hammering as if I had sprinted a dozen blocks. The phone felt heavy in my hand. I tried to make sense of what I had just seen. I was not some guy living on internet conspiracy boards. I did not spend nights on message threads wearing a tinfoil hat. But this was not a prank. This was not a story somebody made up. My brother had faked his own death because he believed staying would get him killed. And now he was telling me to look hard at my wife and at our parents. My eyes drifted to the window. The feeling that someone might already be watching me made the hair rise on my arms. I pressed the phone to my chest and sat breathing heavy, trying to stitch the pieces together. Why was Tyler running from our own family? From Jessica? I did not have the answer, but I knew my next step. I had to face my father and demand to know what Redwood Summit really was. Sunday afternoon, I pulled into my parents' driveway like I had done 100 times. The siding near the garage was still cracked. The hedge along the walk still needed trimming. But the air felt heavier now, like I was walking into something I could not back out of. Dad was out back at the grill, acting like it was any other weekend. Same faded barbecue master apron. Same can of Miller Lite dripping in his hand. He did not even glance up when I stepped onto the deck. "Got burgers and brats," he said. "You hungry?" I ignored the question, walked straight to the patio chair across from him and sat down. My fists stayed hidden under the table. "What happened at Redwood Summit?" I asked. His hand froze mid-flip. The spatula hovered over the flames. One burger blackened and started to smoke, but he did not notice. He turned his head slowly until his eyes locked on mine. "Where did you hear that name?" "Tyler," I said. "He sent me a message. Told me the funeral was a cover, said everything points back there." The grill hissed louder as grease dripped onto open flame. He did not lower the heat, just stared, jaw tight. "Redwood Summit," he said finally, his voice low, like he was telling me a bedtime story from hell. "It was not a base, it was a contract site, private money, military oversight only on paper, no uniforms, no real rules." He reached out, turned the burners down at last, and stepped back. I worked there, logistics, intake. Nothing high level, but enough to know what was happening. "What were they doing?" I asked. He paused, like maybe I did not deserve the truth, or maybe like it was too late to stop it. They called it neurological performance enhancement. Human experiments on memory manipulation, sensory acceleration, reflex integration, the whole package. He looked past me into the trees, as if the past was crouched out there waiting. "Tyler got hurt 3 years ago. You remember that?" "Yeah," I said. "Bike accident. Broken ribs, concussion." "It was not an accident," Dad said flatly. "He volunteered for the program right after. Told us it was physical therapy. It was not. They fed him a custom protocol, neural implants, chemical recalibration, trauma pairing. The entire point was to see how far they could push cognition when it is tied to shared emotional trauma. Twins were ideal." I felt my spine stiffen. "You let them use him?" "I did not let anything," he snapped back. "He signed up. He was of legal age. I had thought Tyler was trying to fix himself to heal from the inside out. But it worked, didn't it?" I asked my father. "Whatever they did to him, it stuck." Dad did not answer right away. He stared at the glowing coals in the grill like they owed him a confession. Finally, he said quietly, "It worked until it didn't. Then he started losing chunks of time, having these cross echoes, feeling things you were feeling, like your minds were bleeding together. I blinked hard. That is not possible. It is now, he said flatly. That is why they shut the program down, officially. But off the books, the people who paid for it saw something different. Not therapy, not medicine. He looked me dead in the eye. They called it asset retention, training loyalty into soldiers by rewriting how they process fear, pain, and even love. Strip a person down until there is nothing left but obedience. I leaned back in my chair. My breath came shallow. So you are telling me Tyler faked his death to get out of that? He did not fake it for a thrill, Benjamin, my father said. He faked it because somebody was about to erase him for real. He grabbed hold of something, a full dump of their testing data. Names, schedules, financial records. He finally moved the burgers off the flame and slammed the grill lid shut with a hollow clang. If he contacted you, it means somebody slipped up. You were supposed to believe he was dead. I saw the video, I said. He told me not to trust you, or Mom. Dad leaned against the deck railing. The posture made him look older than I had ever seen him. You think I enjoy this? His voice cracked. You think I have not spent the last 3 years waiting for a knock a door, wondering if I would lose both of you in one night? Then why did you not do something? I demanded. I tried, he said, jaw tight. They shut me out. I was just a contractor. I never made the decisions. Your mother stayed on. She was deeper in than I was. What does she know? He looked away without answering. That silence told me enough. I want names, I said. Files. Whatever you have. He gave a humorless little laugh. You think I kept souvenirs? I buried it all like I was told. So what happens now? He stepped closer, voice low. Now you have two choices. You disappear or you finish what Tyler started. But if you stand in the middle, they will tear you apart. I stood up, did not shake his hand, did not thank him. I just walked off the deck and climbed into my truck. That night, I might have slept an hour. Dreams came in jagged flashes. Tyler screaming in the woods, Jessica's cold breath on my skin, my father flipping burgers like the world was not burning down. At dawn, I printed everything from the burner phone, stuffed it in a duffel bag, and pointed my truck north. Tyler had one person left who might still love him enough to talk. His ex. I drove 55 miles with the defroster blasting, my mind barely holding together. The GPS took me through curling switchback roads and walls of trees thick enough to swallow headlights. Just past a rusted sign that read, Mountain Pass Overlook, I found it. A one-story cabin hidden behind a row of fir trees. Porch light glowing weak like it had not been changed in years. I parked, walked up slow. My hand hovered over the doorbell, but she opened the door before I touched it. Cracked it an inch. Her face went pale. You look like him, she said, voice thin as paper. I am not, I said softly. I am Ben. She stared at me like she was scanning for proof. After a long few seconds, she opened the door wider and stepped back. Come in. The smell hit me first, lavender mixed with the tang of printer ink. Inside it was warm but heavy, like the air itself carried weight. The living room held almost no furniture, just a desk piled high with documents, printouts, and thumb drives. The far wall was covered with pinned papers, names, maps, and string connecting them all. It looked like evidence from a murder trial. You want something to drink? She asked. I shook my head. No, I need answers. She glanced sideways, her lips pressed thin. He is alive, isn't he? I did not even try to hide it. Yeah, she exhaled hard through her nose, turned to the desk. I thought maybe. I thought if he reached out to you, it meant he was desperate. I need to know what Redwood Summit really was, I said, and how deep this thing goes. She stayed silent for a beat, then unlocked the bottom drawer of a file cabinet, pulled out a heavy metal case, and carried it to the desk. I do not work for them anymore, she said, but if they knew I kept this. She popped the latches. Inside were stacks of medical logs, memos stamped with government seals, photos of charts and injection sites. One picture showed Tyler shirtless, wires taped to his skin, eyes half closed like he was not fully there. I was his handler, she said quietly. They never told him that. We met through a job placement app. It looked random. It was not. You were spying on him? I asked, my hands itching to flip the whole table over. She finally started talking. I was recruited through a shell company called Medicore Systems, she said. My job was to watch him, track his behavior, record his neurological responses, set up environmental stressors, trigger emotions, monitor how he reacted, and send everything back up the chain. But you fell for him, I said quietly. Her head snapped up, jaw tight. Yeah, I did. That does not mean I stopped doing the job, at least at first. But then I started seeing what it was doing to him. Nosebleeds coming out of nowhere, entire days gone from his memory, reflexes that did not belong to him anymore. I walked to the wall covered in papers and string. Words leapt out at me like warnings: behavioral synchronization, trauma pairing protocol, Sentinel Phase 2. What is Project Sentinel? I asked. Her voice went flat, almost robotic, like she was trying to separate herself from what she was saying. Sentinel was an off-the-books human enhancement trial. They believed twins offered the highest compatibility for neural crossover. Identical DNA, shared development, often shared trauma. The plan was to build soldiers who would not break because they were anchored to another person's emotional core. I stared at the word Sentinel on a yellow sticky note. It no longer felt like science fiction. It felt like someone had rewritten the rules and did not care who got ground up underneath them. So what did they actually do to him? I asked. She pulled out a photo of a brain scan. They implanted biofeedback nodes into his parietal lobe. They used microdoses of neural-enhancing compounds. Environmental stress was the key. They wanted to simulate wartime conditions. That is where I came in. I was supposed to be his calm and then his chaos. You are telling me, I said, stepping closer, that all of it, the tests, the memory gaps, the breakdowns, was planned? She nodded, eyes sharp now. Everything, and your parents were involved. Your mother ran intake screenings for twin candidates. Your father handled supply chain and off-site transport. They were not bystanders. They built the system. The room tilted under me. I grabbed the back of the desk chair and gritted my teeth. Why him? Why Tyler? He stumbled onto something he was not supposed to see, she said. During one of his synchronization events, he glimpsed another subject, a child who was not part of his cohort. He started digging, found a directory, cross-referenced locations, and then stole a drive. I looked at the metal case on the desk. It is in there? She shook her head. He took the original. I only have the index files and proof he accessed it. He told me if he ever vanished, someone would come looking. And where is he? She turned to her laptop, tapped a few keys, and pulled up a satellite map, zoomed in on a dense block of state-owned forest. Right there. No roads, no trails. The closest cell tower is 7 miles away. That red dot is the last ping from his emergency beacon. You tracked him? No, she said. He let me track him, for exactly this reason. I stared at the screen. Trees for miles. No sign of life. Nothing. He said if you ever showed up, she continued, it meant they were getting too close and he was running out of time. I grabbed the printed file from the desk and the flash drive she handed me. She walked me to the door but did not open it yet. One more thing, she said. Once you go in after him, you do not come back the same. I have not been the same since the funeral, I told her. She nodded once. Then you are ready. I walked out into the night with the file in my hand and my stomach tied in knots. I had a location, a target, and a brother waiting in the woods. I parked where the road turned to hard-packed dirt and the trail disappeared into brush. The GPS still showed me 3 miles short of the last ping. I killed the engine and listened. Nothing but trees and the thud of my own heartbeat. I swung the duffel over my shoulder and started walking. No roads, no trail markers, just damp ground and fading light. Branches slapped against my arms, pine needles crunched under my boots. The deeper I went, the stranger it felt, like the woods themselves were holding their breath. No birds, no wind, just stillness. I checked the map twice to make sure I had not drifted. Then I saw it. Tucked behind a curtain of moss and brush, a slanted wooden shack, barely standing. Looked like something left behind by a logging crew half a century ago. I stepped into the clearing and called out, my voice low and steady. Tyler, it is Ben. Silence. Then the door creaked open. He stepped out slow. His face was thinner now, eyes hollow and sharp. A dirty sweatshirt hung off his frame. Mud clung to his jeans. A long scar ran down the side of his neck, one I had never seen before. You should not have come, he said, voice low but steady. I just stared at him. You are alive. He did not smile, did not flinch, just held the door open and said, Inside, now. The shack was even smaller on the inside than it looked from the trees. One cramped room, no power. The air smelled like damp wood soaked in gasoline. In the corner sat a pile of firewood, a rolled-up sleeping bag, a battered laptop, and a dented metal lockbox. I dropped my bag, heart thudding like a hammer. "I know everything," I said. "Jessica, Mom, Dad, Rachel, Redwood Summit." Tyler leaned against the wall. "So they cracked," he muttered. "Dad told you I volunteered, that it worked, that they were trying to weaponize me." "He left out a lot," Tyler said, "but that is their pattern." He crossed the room, knelt beside the lockbox, flipped it open, and pulled out 3 flash drives, a stack of printed forms, and a thick envelope sealed in red tape. He held up a photo, 2 kids no older than 10, blindfolded, wires running from their heads. This is what they were doing, not just to me, not just to us. I could barely hold the picture. It felt like it burned through my skin. "I stayed out here until I had everything," Tyler said. They started cleaning up the other subjects. 3 accidental deaths in 1 month. Once I had this, he tapped the envelope. They found me. A sharp crack outside cut him off. He moved before I even processed it, grabbed me by the collar, yanked me toward the back wall. "You led them here." "I did not," I said, but stopped cold. I did not know. Another sound. Boots crunching leaves. Slow, deliberate. More than one pair. Tyler kicked open a floorboard, reached into a hidden compartment, and pulled out a Glock, then tossed me another. I caught it, my hands stiff. "We can run," he said, "or we fight." I swallowed hard. "Run where?" He did not answer, just peered through a slit in the wall, whispered, "Too late." Then a voice floated in from maybe 15 feet outside the shack. Calm. Professional. "Benjamin and Tyler Morgan. We want the drive. No one has to die tonight." I looked at Tyler. "What is the plan?" He did not blink. "You shoot better right-handed or left." "I do not even know if I shoot at all," I hissed. He handed me a spare magazine. "Figure it out fast." I crouched by the doorframe, gun raised. The weight felt unreal in my hands. Sweat ran into my eyes, but I did not wipe it. Tyler moved like a man who had done this before, steady, measured. He pulled open a hidden hatch in the back, just wide enough to crawl through. "They think we are boxed in," he said. "That is good." "But they have numbers," I whispered. "And gear." "We have the truth," he said, "and surprise." A stick cracked farther off, like they were circling. "Go first," he told me. "I will follow and seal the hatch behind us." "What if they rush in?" "Then we do not miss." I dropped down and crawled through the dark tunnel, came out behind a rock bed, just past a cluster of trees with roots thick enough to hide behind. I turned, and a second later, Tyler slid out behind me, dead silent. We crouched behind a fallen log as the footsteps got closer. "You sure this is worth dying for?" I asked him. He did not look at me. "I am sure it is worth not letting them win." Another voice rang out, closer now. "We just want the files. You give us the drive. This ends clean." Tyler locked eyes with me. "They will kill us either way," he whispered, "but not before they erase everything." I raised the gun, my hands steadier now. Somehow the fear had started to feel useful. He nodded once, then pointed east. "See that fire tower through the trees? That is where we upload." "Now?" He gave a quick, grim smile. "Now." He bolted first, weaving through the trees like he had run this path 100 times. I followed close, lungs burning, every breath cold and sharp. Behind us, the shack erupted with noise. Doors kicked open, wood splintering, voices shouting. We did not stop, did not look back. We had one shot and nowhere else to run. We sprinted through the brush like hunted animals, branches whipping our arms, leaves slicing across our faces. I heard the soft hiss of suppressed gunfire behind us. Not the wild pops of panicked shooting. These were sharp, controlled bursts. They were not here to scare us off. They were here to end it. Tyler kept throwing glances over his shoulder, counting the distance by ear. 400 yards, he called. "Watch your step." I caught a root with my boot, slammed my shoulder against a tree, nearly went down, but shoved myself forward and kept moving. My lungs were fire. My legs felt like blocks of cement, but we did not stop. Then the fire tower rose ahead of us, rusted, twisted metal with peeling red paint, swaying in the wind like it might collapse at any second. Just seeing it made my stomach knot. Tyler never slowed. He ran straight to the ladder, started climbing like he had rehearsed it, and vanished over the top. I followed, each rung a battle, my palms slick with sweat. The higher I went, the more the wind howled, rattling the tower like loose bones. When I finally pulled myself onto the platform, all I could see in every direction was a sea of trees. No lights. No roads, just wilderness and the heavy sense that somewhere out there, death was waiting. Tyler was already moving. Signal booster out, laptop open, flash drive plugged in. His hands worked fast, practiced, like he had done this 100 times. He did not waste a second explaining. I crouched beside him, chest heaving. What's in the files? Not just experiments, he muttered, eyes locked on the screen. What then? Programming, he said. Brainwashing. He gave the slightest nod. Worse. They tested pairs, usually twins, forced emotional bonds under stress, then shattered them over and over until loyalty wasn't love anymore. It became survival instinct, obedience without trust. Bourgeois, that was the design. And that's what they were doing to us? He nodded once. We were supposed to break, turn on each other, but we didn't. That made us unpredictable. A threat. The laptop gave a sharp beep. Upload started, he said. Now we hold. I edged toward the railing, gun tight in my grip. Shadows moved at the tree line, fast, low. One slipped left. Another ghosted right. I raised the Glock but held my fire. No point giving away our angle. Once it hits the satellite, low, Tyler said, it copies to 38 dead drop servers. No way to trace, no way to stop. Good, I muttered. Let's just live long enough to see it through. A branch cracked. The ladder shook. Metal groaned under weight. Tyler swung his rifle around, jaw locked. A boot appeared on the top rung. He fired twice, clean. A scream, short and sharp, then a crash as the body hit the ground. Silence. I exhaled through my teeth. My heart felt like it was trying to climb out of my throat. Reload, Tyler said. I fumbled the spare magazine, slammed it into place, hands trembling but functional. He glanced at the screen. 77%. I asked the question anyway. More coming? The look he gave me said I already knew the answer. We dropped flat, stayed low. Every second felt like a fuse burning shorter. Another figure shifted in the trees, rifle raised but not firing. Calculating. Why now? I whispered. Tyler's jaw was tight. Because they're cleaning house, every leak, every loose end, Rachel's probably already marked. Think she's safe? He did not reply, which meant she wasn't. 92%, he muttered. Wind gusted, rattling the tower. My sleeve wiped the sweat from my eyes. We stayed still, waiting, watching. Nothing. Just the creak of metal in the wind. 96. I inched closer to the laptop, ready to throw myself over it if I had to. Then, ding, upload complete. A green check lit the screen. Tyler let out a breath. It's out. The forest went still. No more gunfire. No more footsteps like they had melted away. I waited, ears straining for a twig snap, a whisper, anything. But there was nothing. What now? I asked. Tyler leaned back against the railing, eyes still scanning the trees. Now we wait. Make sure they're really gone. So we waited. An hour, maybe more. Time blurred. When we finally climbed down, the woods were empty. The shack stood in the distance, quiet, untouched. A bird called once, the first natural sound I had heard all night. The truth was out now, free. But what came after, the fallout, the exposure, the reckoning, that was the part we could not control. That was the part we had to survive. By the time we made it back to town, it had already started. Headlines spreading like sparks, Reddit threads, Telegram channels. The fire was lit. Encrypted blog posts started popping up with mirrored documents and timestamps. Somebody had grabbed the files and scattered them everywhere. It was out of our hands now, and that was the whole point. Within 24 hours of leaving the tower, the full dump hit the internet. Names, dates, footage, images of children strapped to tables, notes on forced separations. Timelines that did not line up with anything in the public record. Some of the names matched old missing person bulletins from 8 to 12 years back. Most of them were people no one remembered anymore. There were photos of twins, not just Tyler and me. Others. Some crying, some blank-faced. One child stared straight into the camera with eyes that looked dead inside. I shut the laptop twice just to catch my breath. On the fourth document, my parents' names appeared. My father was listed under Asset Logistics and Support. My mother, full signature, medical license number, recorded evaluations, was tagged Psychometric Gatekeeper. Both names showed up over a dozen times. They were not support staff, they were key. And Jessica, she had an Apex Analytics identification tag. Full name. Assignment log. Her picture next to the word evaluator. Bond fracture metrics. She had been tracking me for years. She called the morning the story hit the big outlets. I let it roll to voicemail. Her voice cracked like she had been crying. Ben, I did not want this. You have to believe me. My dad was sick. The money, I did not think it would go this far. Please, just call me back. I played it once, deleted it, blocked her number. Tyler and I were holed up in a busted-down motel 200 miles west near a rest stop that smelled like burned coffee and gasoline. The news looped nonstop on the tiny television bolted to the wall. Same phrase on every channel, Project Sentinel whistleblower leak. We were everywhere now. Anonymous insiders, rogue agents, national security threats. Some people called us heroes, some called us liars. A few podcasts swore we were plants from a rival agency. The public did not know what to believe, but they knew one thing. This was not going away. 3 days in, black sport utility vehicles rolled into the motel parking lot. My gut clenched. Tyler grabbed the gun off the nightstand. But they did not come to drag us out. They came to protect us. Federal agents with no-name badges and tired eyes. One woman, mid-30s, red blouse, no jewelry, handed me a folder full of subpoenas and a burner phone with 3 numbers already saved. She did not smile. "You did the right thing," she said, "but you will not get to go back to normal." I said nothing, just took the phone and closed the door. That night, indictments started to roll in. Mid-level supervisors, executives at Apex Analytics, doctors who had signed off on neurological stress protocols, a colonel listed as a contracted ethics auditor. All of them named in the files. All of them on record. The press called it one of the most sweeping private intelligence investigations in American history. Jessica filed for divorce before the week was out. I signed the papers without reading them. She could have the car, the house, every piece of furniture we bought together, but not my name. She did not deserve that. 2 weeks later, my parents were arrested. I watched a grainy live stream of both of them in handcuffs being escorted out of a gated community in Nevada. My mother looked exactly as I remembered, cold, proud, not a hair out of place. My father kept his head down. They took plea deals, not life sentences, but close. No medical license, no pension, nothing left to protect them. Everything they had built, gone. That night, I sat on the motel bed, holding the burner phone like it was a live grenade. Part of me expected a knock at the door, retaliation, silencers, a clean end. Instead, a text came through from Sophia. "I do not know what to believe anymore, Dad, but I believe you." I read it 5 times, did not text back, could not, just sat there staring at the screen, trying not to come apart. That was the first moment the weight shifted. Not relief, not closure, but something like solid ground. Tyler looked over at me. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, I think so." That night, I actually slept, for the first time in weeks. The motel emptied out after the indictments hit. The feds moved us twice in 2 months and then left us alone. A year later, Tyler was living off-grid outside Missoula, Montana. Solar panels on the roof. Tyler's cabin had a wood stove and no internet unless he decided he needed it. Behind the place, he built a small greenhouse and tinkered with broken radios just because he could. He barely called. That was our agreement. He stayed quiet, and I stayed visible. I moved back east and started a nonprofit, just a small office, 3 staff members, minimal funding, nothing flashy, a clean mailbox, a simple plaque on the door. The Morgan Foundation for Whistleblower Defense. People came, some scared, some furious. All of them desperate to be heard. I listened to their stories, pointed them toward the right lawyers, the right reporters, the right shelters, built a space where secrets did not have to rot in silence anymore. Some days I almost forgot how it started. Just a text message, a man in a black suit, my brother's name on a casket that did not hold him. But when I saw Tyler again, when I looked into the eyes of the one person who had burned down his own life to protect the truth, I remembered. The truth does not stay buried. Not forever. We only agreed to one interview. Just one. A documentary crew had been chasing us for months. A big platform, national reach. They flew us out under aliases, gave us hotel rooms with no windows, and took our phones before filming. The director asked, "Why now?" I did not blink. Because we are done being controlled. Tyler sat next to me, arms crossed, jaw locked like concrete. He leaned into the microphone and said, "Because somebody's kid is next, unless somebody speaks." I felt the air in the room change. The silence that followed was not doubt, it was understanding. We were not talking about revenge anymore. We were not trying to settle a score or make people pay. We were tearing the curtain down and pointing at the one still hiding behind it. We see you. That was all. The people who tried to erase us, my parents, Jessica, the suits at Apex, the shell contracts and private labs, they had spent years in the shadows, confident no one would ever shine a light that bright. Now they were the ones fading. And me? I no longer slept with a gun under my pillow. I did not triple check the locks or flinch every time a dark car rolled up behind me. I slept knowing we had made noise loud enough to wake the dead, and louder than that, we had made them listen. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. And as always, thank you for watching.